Taylor E. I originally came from Texas, but I am living in Los Angeles now. And it's really interesting, the acting and comedy match, but I started in acting first. And I actually started in a garage when I was in the fourth grade. I started doing cabaret shows and making people pay to come and see me. Like I insisted on parents coming to come and see me. The very interesting thing about it is that my parents didn't come. But I made all the neighborhood parents come and sit and pay money to come and see me sing and my friend come and sing. So that's really when my love and connection with performing and singing began in a garage in Texas. From there, I went to try and find every source of acting that I could at church, at school, any place that I could find a way to share my voice or my characters or my spirit in any way. That's what I did. I just started and just loved it, found a connection. And I've been doing that for years now. It's really interesting. I went from going from high school and decided that I wanted to study more and to study Shakespeare. And I went to London to study at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. I was really hardcore Shakespeare and played Oberon, the character Oberon. I've played Mariah. I've done so much theater here in LA. I'm a member of Actors Equity Association as well, and have traveled with theater. And then decided that I wanted to go back and focus in my film and TV area, and started gearing things in that area. So I started focusing on TV and started booking some TV roles, which was really fun, especially because it was in comedy, because I have gone to and taken classes at Groundlings and UCB and in the conservatory at Second City. So it's been great. It's been really, really great. I kind of fell into stand up. I was storytelling and sharing stories, and someone said, I really like, what you do. So let's have you host a show. So I started hosting comedy shows. And the next thing, I started falling into the comedy and the stand up, and just like I said, like a mosquito that bit me and just can't step away from it. But it's the greatest thing, because it's just me being me. That's it. It's just me being me, and that's what I love about it. And you don't ever have to end. You don't ever have to stop doing that, because it's just you being you. I said something about the film. What's really interesting, film and TV, I have also been writing. So I write a lot. I have a book that's coming out next year. It's called Southern Spiced, and it talks about me and a little bit about my life and things growing up, and some other stories that have happened in our world and in history, and things that have happened to people that have been unjust, and just takes you through a journey. So it's a fun book, and hope you look out for it next year. Southern Spice by Felicia Taylor E. And
That's what I'm talking about. I really love this. I hope I don't bombard you with too many questions. But like, first of all, what I heard was that you were the one that took the initiative in your career, like from the get-go. There wasn't anyone fueling or pushing you. And that's amazing to be so young and have that fortitude and just be aware. That's so cool. Okay, now the question.
Thank you.
So, do you have any role models? Were there people that were artistic in your world that made you believe that this is something you could do, or was it on screen watching someone? was there someone outside of your family that pushed you? How were you able to keep this fuel going, or was it internal?
That's interesting. It seems it's kind of like a mixture of a question. I want to say loaded too, because I'm sitting and thinking. And I think it was me just being fueled, but it was also a connection of at church. My grandmother always sang in the choir. And during Easter time, I was always made to go and give an Easter speech. So I had to go up in front of the church, and I was little, I was really young. I had to go up in front of the church and say my Easter speech, whether I wanted to or not. So I was forced to just have to go up in front. And I think being made to go up in front of an audience and seeing people receiving things that you're saying and really going on that journey with you. I think that made me get over my fear. We always have, everyone always says, oh, they've been doing it a long time, so they're fine. We have those butterflies, and those butterflies, are good things. You have to push through them, and you have to figure out how to channel them and make all that come out. But to go back to your question, I don't feel anybody was really pushing me in that way. If anything, they may have been trying to steer me away from it. Yeah, they were trying to steer me away from it because in my family, there was no one who was an actor. That kind of a lifestyle just wasn't anything that was viable or anything that had to do with performance. It just didn't compute. You were either a teacher, a nurse, a doctor. There just really wasn't anything else that it just wasn't viable. That was not a viable way to go into a path of something. And it wasn't until I think things began to happen and then I received a paycheck for it that it began to be validated, in my family's mind. That's what I have to say. I don't really know, what they were saying outside to other people, but I do know that it really wasn't validated to them until I started, quote unquote, booking things and I was getting paid for it. So that's something that I had to also come to balance with in my mind, not to try to do things to please them, but to go with what my spirit said that I needed to do and to go with what brought me joy. So that's the path that I've gone on. And along the way, I think, they're happy. They cheer on and they're happy, but they still, it's like for actors and for creatives, period. There's a time that you have to begin to look for the next job. And that's something people don't understand. You are continually looking for the next job. It doesn't matter who you are. You still have to find the next gig. And I think that's something that you just can't, unless people are in this industry or involved in a creative capacity, you just can't explain that. Can't explain that to people. And I don't know if we have to.
And I love that your energy has always been that you don't have to. Like, I love that you were so aware that you were a performer in that garage. Like, it wasn't the paycheck that made you the performer. It was in your garage, you soliciting your neighbors and those adults to come and watch you. That's what made you a performer. And that's so important for people to understand and hear. What can you speak to, like, someone trying to do this now that's our age or someone that's younger? What can you speak to in terms of just letting them know, I guess, the the journey of the ups and also the journey of
Mhm.
the downs? I feel like you said a lot about that, but if you have any extra, we're here to listen.
I think you what I found is that you really have to, your wins are what you feel are your wins. And it can be something, people feel like a win is when you have booked something that has paid a certain amount or has fulfilled something that you had on your board that you just had to achieve. But if you're writing down the things that you've done, I picked up a book because I started writing things down and just writing and saying, I went to an audition today, and the producer, like, I had a callback and the producer really liked me. And, they said, great job. We really love the choices that you made. So I wrote that down. And then, I wrote down on another day that I made a effort to try and connect with someone like a director that I hadn't spoken to in a while. And I said, let's go and have, lunch sometime and let's do that. And instead of saying, let's do that, let's set a date and let's put the date down, because we just never have the time. And I went back in that book and I started looking and I said, oh my gosh, from January to February, each time I had something written down, I had accomplished so many things and achieved so many things. But I really, all I look back at, I look back and I'm like, oh, okay, I did, these 3 big jobs. But really, out of those 3 big jobs, there were like 30 wins that you had there. But if you're not writing down those wins, like you wrote a script or you wrote an idea about a sketch, you may not have done the sketch yet, but you wrote it down. And if you go to many of the authors that have best-selling books right now, they will tell you that they wrote ideas down, put it in a drawer, and then one day just pulled all that stuff out and just compiled it together. And so we disregard the small steps, or these steps. I'm going to say steps because we disregard the steps that we're taking. So I think as a creative and in this business, you can't disregard those steps. Every single step that you take is a step that's leading you to the next step that is going to bring what you just have no idea. Because my path has gone in so many different directions that I'm like, wow, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I feel like God's doing it. There's this whole connection of things that are supposed to happen as long as we stay on that path. And I think when you veer, you can't veer off that path. It's really difficult because we have to also find things at times when things aren't working in one arena. You have to find ways to pay the bills, and bring the money in, because as I said, you're always looking for the next gig. You're just always looking for the next gig. So you've got to start being able to market, create, and work on that next gig. But in between that time, there's other things that have to happen. So I think those are the 2 keys. Understanding that every step that you take, you need to note that. Because when you get down and you feel like you haven't achieved enough, or somebody says to you, or a relative or a friend says, what, girl, what have you worked on? What are you working on now? Well, I just booked, I'm just, well, dang, I can't do something like every single day. Something's not going to come up every single day. That's just the creative world. So as long as you're creating and you are making note and realizing what you're creating, I think those are the most important things. And then understanding that it's okay that you're going to be looking for the next gig and the next area that you're going to share your creativity, because that's what you're doing. It's really not, you've got to stop. I say gig because that's just the term. That's a term that people use, but everything can be a gig. As I said, writing a sketch, you're writing a sketch, writing down an idea, everything, connecting with someone about a project next year. There's just so many different areas and things, but stick to what you're doing, because when you're doing that, that's when people are going to find what you're doing. When you stick to what you know and what your passion is. When you start to veer off on other things, then they don't really know what you do. So that's one of the things you said, something about you've kind of found, you've kind of created. I kind of found a pathway of knowing who I am and just being me, and trying to find ways to share that, the arenas that I can share me, because that's what it's all about, just us being who we are, the creative beings that we are.
And I love that so much because of your comedy. You're bringing in your fact that you're married, you're a mom, and also a sense of being a spiritual person. It seems like those things are engulfed in your journey, and I love that you share that with us. I want to know how those things have helped shape you and your creative outlook. How has being married, how has being mom, how has your spirituality helped shape your creative needs?
It's it's interesting because as a mom, you are not solely focused on your creating all the time. You can't be. Um, and also as a partner, you have to also make sure that you're focused on the unit of family. So I've found, I think it's, and I'm still working on that. I'm still working on all the balancing, because it's a balancing act. But the thing that I have begun to realize is that all those things, that's what is you. So that's what, that's what you're bringing out. If you are trying to, create and do something separate from that. I mean, there's different things that you create, but really that is the basis of you. And that's where you need to find your areas to create and to share, because you're going to find that that's your life right there anyway. So you've got to bring those things out of it and stay there with the gifts that you already have around you. And as far as the spirituality, I feel like we all have something that we believe in that grounds us. And for me, that's something that I've always gone to when times are down, or when I'm filled with joy. And I try to just, try to have that throughout the family, and just with me, with, hey, that's singing. I started singing in the church, so I can't, there's, you don't get away from, all of that.
Okay, so I want to know what are so I feel like oftentimes as Black women we're pigeonholed in roles. What are roles that you want to create for yourself? That you want to see yourself be on television or on film?
Mhm. It's interesting. I had a friend. I have, a few friends, and they will get a call about a TV gig that they have booked, and they are, saying, I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna play. I don't want to do that. I don't want to play that part anymore. I've done it for the last 10 years, the same exact thing. And I think it's a personal choice for everyone. It's everybody has a different journey. So I try to find, for me, parts that make me laugh, or I connect to them, um, or I feel very strongly about, or I'm going to have, great fun with it, because that is really what it's all about. I've found that if you sign on to do something that you really are not interested in, it's going to show that you're really not interested in it and you're going to be miserable. So as you know, as far as the parts that I see for myself, that's really, it's kind of a challenging question because we're always waiting for someone to put us into a certain role. But I have found that we have to ourselves think outside of what you feel they're going to see you as. I've gone into a part and I'm like, oh, because I've already typecast myself. I'm like, oh, they're not going to see me for that one. Let me just go ahead and, let me submit for that one. So I've stopped doing that because I've gone in for a couple of roles and said, that one's not for me. For instance, there was a fairy godmother role and I played Cinderella. There was a fairy godmother role, but the way that they had it described, I felt they're not going to hire me for that, and that's not for me. So let me go to one of the stepsisters, one of the evil stepsisters, because that seemed like the description was more of what they wanted me for. So that's what I auditioned for, but I got the fairy godmother role. So that's happened more than once. There was another role where there was an opera singer and her size was closer to what I felt, okay, they're going to see me as this role. So I'm not going to audition for the other roles. I didn't get that role. I got the lead role. So we have to also stop putting ourselves in a kind of a box because of what we've been taught, or because of what we've been shown, because now it seems like people are flipped, the switch can be flipped. You go in, you give them you give them everything that you've got and they see something, they're just like, wow, let me find something. And it's something that's completely different. So I think it's us getting out of a certain mindset, and it's also helping others to get out of a certain mindset. And it's a job. It's just something that's called life. That's everything. That's even in friendship, right? So you have to make sure. And I say all the time now, I'll look at something, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to submit for that. Or someone will say, no, I'm not going to. I'm like, why are we saying no? Let them say no. If they don't want, and that's not where they see you, then just let them, but let us stop putting ourselves in a box and keep moving forward, keep pushing forward to creating and just giving it everything. And it's just, I feel like we'll be amazed at what happens with that. Because I feel like things are changing and I feel like things will change. And as I said before, I've been given parts or cast for parts that I didn't even think. I went in thinking that's not okay, that's somebody else, because that's what I've been taught. But I was wrong.
Yeah, because they made room for you, honey. They were like, "Oh, wait, we don't go away. Let's find something."
But that's good. That's what we want. That's what we have to remember. That's all you've got. You've got to go in with that. You can't go in. You got to go in with that and with everything.
I love
So
that so much. Which leads me to the next question of how important is training for you, and when do you leave it alone? So I was reading one um, director who seems to be doing well, I guess at Slam Dance right now, and he was talking about how storytelling for him is something that we all have. That's our
mhm.
gift given to us by the creator. And for him, in terms of filmmaking, he wanted to make sure that he knew the technical side. He would refuse to take the writing. That's scary for me as a writer. I'm like, what? You didn't take a writing class? But like he refused to take a writing class, but he did take sound and he did take cinematography. But he
Mhm.
trusted that the other things he would build in the process of filmmaking. So that's filmmaking. Now, for you from an actor's perspective, how important is training and when do you decide to leave it alone?
That's a really interesting question. Again, I think everybody's journey is different, but I think the idea of training, that we have a strange way with that, because you're already shaping what you already have and you're making it better. So it's really many times you're expanding things that you know, and you're expanding terminology, right? Because you say, "Oh, that's what that's called." I was already doing that, but I didn't know that that's what that was called. So you have to decide if it's something that you want to understand about right now, because there's different ways to train. You can train on the spot, and you train in different ways. Like for me with Shakespeare, I wanted to go to the program so that I could learn more, but I also wanted to see more of the history and see the places, so that I could, when I was speaking about it, I would be able to talk about, the theater. I would be able to talk about the Stratford upon Avon. I'd be able to see it in my head. But that was for me, for the connection that I needed. The training that I really received is when I was performing, and when I actually had the performance and doing it in the shows. It wasn't the training that I was taught or trained with at Lambda. It was when I was really in the action of everything, and touring. So I think training comes from all different facets, kind of like you're talking about the filmmaker, where he said, I'm not going to do writing, I'm not going to, but I'm sure if you go back and ask him again or talk to him again, he's going to share with you in some way that he had to learn it some way with sitting with someone. He may not have taken a class, or a writing program, but he still had to learn it. He did it. And then someone said, you know what, you have to have it in this format, because if it's not in this format, then our script readers are not going to be, and the actors aren't going to be. So you still have to learn the way. It just depends on what your pathway is to it and what everybody's journey is. Yeah.
That's so real. Absolutely so real. Wow. Um, I think I asked this, but I'm not. Oh, I think I wanted to know who are actors that you look up to, or I should just say that you like in
Mhm.
our industry.
Oh gosh, I love Cicely Tyson. I just I was seeing something about her the other day, and I said, "Oh, right." Like I remember I saw that. That's, um Miss Jane Pittman is something that I saw her in, and it just, I've never forgotten it. I just never forgot it. It was so powerful and so true. And the way that she created and connected with it and shared that character, just, she was Miss Jane Pittman, And there's so many others that are current. I love Viola Davis. There's so many actors that I watch and enjoy their performances, male actors, female actors. And when I go back and you say in history, Cicely Tyson just comes to my mind, because she's still here and she's still performing and she's still amazing. Still amazing.
I'm so happy that you are bringing us a book, and I can't wait for it to come out as well. I want to know, because I heard you say something, a little sprinkle about history and what sounds like folks that have been marginalized, and you speaking to that. What role do you think us as creators and artists and actors play in social justice? Do we have any role?
Yes, I think it's one of those questions where people may say, I don't know what to do. That's really not my area. I don't know how to create in that mode, or that's just not my type of writing or message that I want to share. But I feel with the topic of social justice, it encompasses everything, and it encompasses everything that we are, everything that we as a people, period, because that's what makes the world continue. So it can come in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be about, because I heard somebody was saying, well, I don't want to, what am I going to do about, I'm not marching, and I don't want to write about marching. I'm like, but it's not really about that. It could be something that is said when you are in the coffee room. It can be something that you're talking about with your friends in a scene. You don't have to be quote unquote just talking about marching or things that are in the news that you feel like that are headlines right now, but you can be talking about the justice that we are supposed to have as a people, as human beings. And that's it. That's the awareness of us knowing that everybody should be treated equally, and that things should be on a certain level for everyone, and that's infused and can be infused through everything, not like in a very specific way where you're having to really just spell things out. I think it comes very organically, but when we use the word, people feel like it's something that they really have to put into something. And it's really not, it's really just us being who we are and sharing the beliefs that you want for everyone else for equality.
Yes, that's what I said. That's what she said, and she said that. Oh, oh.
Listen, it could be on the playground. Kids are at a kindergarten, and one wants to get on the slide, and the other one does. There's a whole lot of different ways, and it's not the inorganic way that we get stuck with and that we're thinking. So I think that's something that needs to be shared.
Yeah.
So
And so I
yeah.
thank you for sharing it. I mean, it brings me to my next question of um, hope. I think that as mothers, we naturally are cultivating hope because we have children that we're rearing. We're raising children for the present and for the future. And and so hope is something we are consistently cultivating. How do you cultivate hope? And what do you see? What do you what what is hope to you?
Knowing that things are going to get better, even when we feel that it's not. Knowing that the next day is going to change to the next day, even when you feel that it's not. And understanding, I said this to a friend, and I know this is like a quote all the time. When there's rain, there's going to be a rainbow and sunlight after. And it's hard when we're in the midst of it all for us to feel that, to really know that, because you're there in the trenches with the feeling of the injustices or whatever has happened on that day. There's so much that's happened this year that just can't even begin to no can't even begin to just talk about all the different things, because it's so much and it's been painful. And I think for moms, and just as humans, period, that we have to understand that and remember that when the sun goes down, the sun's going to come back up. That when we have one day today and everything has fallen apart, that we're still going to be here tomorrow if we allow that to be so. It's going to continue and things are going to get better, because you have to look back at when you had the roughest times, and different people had the roughest times, um, and know that things are going to change. My grandmother will be 92 this year, and she was born in 1928. And she said, I have never, in all my life, I've never seen a year like this year. Never, never with anything like this, with this pandemic. Something happened during the time when in the 30s, but it wasn't this bad. The things that have been happening with the police and, the deaths, of course, she has, seen those things, but in rapid succession. And I think it's because it's different when you hear about it versus seeing it. So this year has been a year, but she still, she knows that when she lays down, there's going to be another day, period. And I think we just have to understand that. And because others that have gone through life and they have made it through, that life is going to continue, and we've got to keep shaping, and we have to keep having the hope. We have to. And in 3 hours, you may not have it. There may, and that's okay. I found that's one thing that I found. I remember something that Oprah said, and I was like astounded by it. There's so many people, when you said who, an actor that you think about, or people that you look, there's just so many people, that things that they've said. I really look for, someone was talking about Nelson Mandela yesterday. And I said, thank you so much for reminding me about him. Yes, I forgot he was in prison for 27 years. And he came 27 years and he came out, not ready to fight and destroy, but he came out to give and to help his country find peace and to build up. And I don't know if I had been somewhere for 27 years, if I'd be able to do that. But he was able to have that hope. And I'm like, thank you for reminding me of him. I'm going to start making sure that I go back and look at all of these different stories and people that have existed and that are existing now, and how, because we have to know, we have to understand, and we have to let our kids understand too, because it's really tough for them right now. I know my son, he's like, nope, don't want to go. Like, but we're just going to go. Right. Nope, I'm good. I'm good right here where I am. So you've got to allow them to understand that things change and that there is hope. And there may be a day, like Oprah said, sometimes I have to go get in my closet and close the door. I'm like, really? She goes to her closet? Like, it's okay. Look, because she knows how to do everything, right? But it's okay for her to go, if she can go to her closet and close the door and crumple, it's okay for me to go and crumple. But you have to get back up. You have to get back up.
Oh, Felicia Taylor E, you're such a gem, and we're so lucky to have you. So lucky.
No, we're lucky to have you for doing this. I'm just like, how does she? I don't know how you do what you do, but you are. And I'm serious. One day we're going to have a talk. You are amazing.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank
really
you so much.
amazing.
Well, okay. On that note, how can we support you? Where can we follow you? Tell us.
Well, right now on IG, I play that game. So if you're going to come loyal. I'm not playing. But it is Felicia Taylor E, Felicia Taylore. That's it, at Felicia Taylor E. So you'll find that. And you can also find me at FeliciaTaylorE.com.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.